Aries crew, come on in, come on in, come on in. Hope you're having a beautiful start to the weekend. We are getting ready to go over some topics that have been trending this week. We got to catch up on some Diddy trial updates. If you're not familiar with me, my name is Aries Rose, and welcome to Aries Rose TV, where you get pop culture with personality and Aries energy in every review. You know the drill if you've been on the live before. If you're part of the Aries crew, leave hashtag Aries crew in the comments. If you're a first time watcher, leave first time watcher in the comments. I want to give you a shout out for stopping by and spending part of your day here. Tonight's topics that we're going to be talking about. We're going to talk about the Smokey Robinson lawsuit. He's broken his silence on it. So we got to discuss what he said about the lawsuit and these allegations that have come out. We also got to get some updates on day 2 and day 3 of the Diddy trial. There's been some different activity with victims potentially not testifying, some surprise people testifying. So we got a lot to follow up on, and it looks like it may not start on Monday. So we're going to talk about the latest with the Diddy trial. And we also got to get into the Cowboy Carter tour that's kicked off, and that's for the Beyonce album that she did that had a lot of country music and country inspiration to it. So we got to talk about some mishaps and different things going on with that tour. If you have not already done so, we'd love to have you part of the Aries crew. All you got to do is hit that subscription button and make sure you hit that notification bell so you can find out every time I go live, upload videos, and post on the community page. So we're going to get into our first story for today, and that's about Smokey Robinson. So this one is so shocking and surprising to me, and it also is just so disappointing and sad to hear. He is a Motown legend, an architect of the Motown sound, very influential, very impactful artist, singer, songwriter in Black music, in American music overall. And he shaped the sound of Black culture in the 60s and 70s through his music and songwriting for other artists. And for as long as I've been alive, up until these allegations have come out, Smokey Robinson has had a relatively good reputation. And I don't really hear too much negativity about things that were going on with him. Now, granted, he was famous in a time before cell phones and social media and things operate they do the way they do now. So he was big in like the late 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, really before things became the way they are, where people can film you anywhere, record you saying anything. That just wasn't as common. So maybe he, did these kind of behaviors and had these types of issues in a time before we would have known about it and people just didn't discuss it. But for me, this seems just so shocking and out of character for the way I've always seen him present himself and the way I've always heard him talked about and looked at by people in the community and the world for that matter. And so I don't know if there's any truth or not to it, but because this is out in the public and it's trending, we're going to talk about it here. First, give me a moment to pause to get a quick drink. All right, we're going to pick it back up. So, a lawsuit was filed on behalf of 4 Jane Does against Smokey Robinson. And this came out last week. And let me tell you, that was not, or earlier this week, that was not on my bingo card for 2024. And I did a live talking about that particular lawsuit. And I will link it in the description so you can get caught up on what the lawsuit is about. So he has broken his silence and responded to it. And we're going to get into the reporting from TMZ about what Smokey Robinson has said regarding the allegations in the lawsuit that's been filed against him. Smokey Robinson's camp says the sexual assault lawsuit filed by 4 former housekeepers is is filled with lies and purely designed to squeeze money out of the Motown legend. Robinson's attorney, Christopher Frost, tells TMZ, quote, as this case progresses, the evidence, the crucial element that guides us, will show that this is simply an ugly method of trying to extract money from an 85-year-old American icon, 50 million to be exact, end quote. He goes on to call out the plaintiffs and their lawyers, saying, quote, through this process, we have seen the bizarre theatrics of yesterday's news conference as the plaintiff's attorneys outlined vile false allegations against Mr. and Mrs. Robinson trying to enlist the public as an unwitting participant in the media circus they're trying to create, end quote. So the lawsuit is not only filed against Smokey Robinson, it's also including his wife, and she's his second wife, Frances Gladney Robinson, and she is not accused of any actual assault towards the four housekeepers. She's being accused of creating a hostile work environment and of also being aware that Smokey was allegedly doing these things, and she did nothing to stop it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments on the Smokey Robinson lawsuit that has recently been filed and the allegations that have been made on it. Definitely want to keep this conversation going. Interested to see what your thoughts are. And we're going to go into the rest of this reporting. As we reported, the accusers who filed as Jane Does claim Robinson raped them multiple times while they were working for him. They're also suing his longtime wife, Frances Gladney Robinson, alleging she knew about his actions and did nothing to protect the employees. Frost says Smokey himself will respond in his own words and will file a motion to dismiss the lawsuit while addressing the, quote, numerous aspects, end quote, of the allegations that, quote, defy credibility, as well as issues related to purported timelines, inconsistencies, and relationships between the plaintiffs and others, end quote. He adds, quote, we ask anyone following this case to reserve judgment as the evidence comes to light and all the actual facts of the case unfold, end quote. So they're denying all the allegations that have been made by these housekeepers, saying that Smokey Robinson was inappropriate with them, did things against their will. Also, they say they were not paid fair wage. They were not paid fair wages, and they also were denied meal and rest breaks, according to their lawsuit. And there was a quote that was from Smokey as well, saying in his own words that he was appalled by the allegations, but that he couldn't speak any more on it, which makes sense. And I think that's the right tactic to take, unlike what Shannon Sharpe did by coming out with a video statement that I don't think made him look as good as he may have thought when he was making that video. I think when you have allegations like this, it's best not to say anything and to let any speaking be done by your attorney, as long as your attorney has your best interests at mind, because anything you say can and will be used against you. And in the court of public opinion, when things like this come out, any little thing you say that's off could really kind of mess up your ability to come back if these are in fact false allegations. But we'll definitely be monitoring this one. It's one I never thought I'd see, and he's 85 years old, and I don't know what his current health condition is, but we'll kind of see how everything goes in this situation, this lawsuit filed against him and his wife. And now we're going to get into some Diddy trial updates. So day 2 and day 3 have occurred with jury selection. And so there's been some different things going on with this trial. And Diddy is on trial for some federal charges right now. So this is not related to other civil suits that have been filed against him. These are federal charges that this particular jury is being selected for. And so the arguments, the trial piece was supposed to start this coming Monday. And it looks like that may be delayed due to still having jury selection, because it's really challenging to get jurors on there that may not have already formed an opinion about the case, who aren't as familiar with Diddy or maybe haven't seen that Cassie video. So there's a lot of considerations that both sides have to take into account when they're doing the jury selection. And I'm sure it's very challenging because Diddy has been around for over 30 years. He's been in a lot of music. He's known globally around the world. He had a big persona. He was always out there, a very flashy person. So, unless you're, I guess, much older and not familiar with hip hop music at all, never had any exposure to it through your kids or grandkids, you may not be as familiar with him. But otherwise, I think everybody generally knows him and knows his music. So I'm sure it's going to be challenging to find that jury. And then when that video came out on CNN, and CNN has a huge audience, and that was a video of him and Cassie having an altercation at a hotel, that's also exposing you to people who may not listen to hip hop but watch CNN for the news. So I'm sure it's challenging, and I don't envy either one of those lawyers, but we're going to see what updates we have on that particular trial here. Just give me a minute to bring up some updates. All right, so we're going to talk about a little side note first. Al B. Shore has been out here talking about his situation. He got into a medical emergency, almost lost his life. So he's been talking about that. And since he's made a recovery, he's definitely, kind of turned a new leaf in life. And he seems to have a new outlook on life and just a very zen, chill personality. But he believes that Diddy had something to do with his medical emergency that almost took his life. And he's done some interviews recently, and we're going to talk a little bit about what he's out here saying. We're going to take a pause for some comments. We got Jana on. Hello. Thank you so much for being on. And Paisley, welcome. Thank you so much for being on. If you're on the live, let me know if you are a part of the Aries crew by leaving hashtag Aries crew in the comments, or let me know if you're a first time watcher. Leave first time watcher in the comments. And we're going to jump in to the Al B. Shore portion here. And this is reporting from TMZ. Al B. Shore says he's the last man breathing who knows the truth about Diddy and has no issue using the last of his oxygen to take him down. So they have an interesting relationship. They kind of came up in the late 80s, 90s, early 90s together in New York. Al B. Shore was on Uptown Records, and Diddy had worked on Uptown Records with Andre Harrell. So they were both kind of in the beginning stages of when hip hop was really growing into what it's become now, but that was the early stage. And New York had a lot of talent that was coming out, that was, putting out some hits on the radio. So it was definitely a growing era over there for how hip hop music was changing, and I'll be sure did R&B. And so he was a part of that. And he met Kim Porter, during that time. And Al B. Shore and Kim Porter share a son together, Quincy. And Kim eventually started dating Diddy. And then they went on to share 3 kids together, twins and a son. And then I believe Diddy also adopted Quincy as well. But Quincy's biological father is Al B. Shore. And they kind of always seem to have a pretty decent relationship because he is the father of Quincy, although Diddy spent the most time with Quincy in his life because of Diddy's relationship with his mom, Kim Porter. And so, but I never really heard of too much friction there about that. But in later years, especially when Al B. Shore's experienced his medical emergency, as well as when Kim Porter passed away, that's when I kind of started hearing that there was more strain in that relationship than I had previously heard. So I don't know if it was all good or when it went bad, but since his medical emergency and the passing of Kim Porter, I'll be sure has definitely had a lot more negativity towards Diddy than I've heard him publicly say before. And let's get into the rest of this. The R&B singer appeared on Fox 5 New York earlier today to promote his forthcoming memoir, where he raised questions about his late ex Kim Porter's death. Al claims Kim used to warn him to, quote, watch his back, end quote, around Diddy, and disputed the coroner's ruling that a healthy 47-year-old woman could suddenly die from pneumonia. Al also revealed Diddy's prosecutors have subpoenaed him to testify in the federal ex-trafficking trial, and he and his attorneys are willing to accept the invitation. That's interesting because I don't know what he could add to the trial, but that got my attention when I saw that headline here about him potentially going to testify. And in the remainder of the reporting, it says the moment of reckoning for Al comes when he declares, quote, I'm the only one alive, end quote, suggesting everyone who ever spoke up against Diddy got whacked. Everything Not everyone shares those Diddy fears, however. Quincy Brown, Al's biological son he shared with Porter, is boldly standing with Diddy, aka, quote, his pops, end quote, until the end. It's worth noting Kim's kid said back in September, quote, while it has been incredibly difficult to reconcile how she could be taken from us too soon, the cause of her death has been established. There was no foul play. Grief is a lifelong process, and we ask that everyone respect our request for peace as we continue to cope with her loss every day, end quote. Prosecutors also revealed in court this week that there wouldn't be much about Kim or Al during the Diddy criminal trial. So we'll see if anything comes from that. We'll definitely keep you posted if he ends up testifying or there's any more information that comes out related to that. And let's get into some more about the jury selection and what was going on here in day 2 and day 3. All right, so we got about Diddy trial victim number 3 reporting from TMZ. Also, federal prosecutors are taking a big gamble with one of their star witnesses in Diddy's ex-trafficking trial because the woman they call, quote, victim 3, end quote, has always made it clear she does not want to testify, TMZ has learned. During jury selection this week, lead prosecutor Maureen Comey admitted the feds do not know whether the alleged victim, one of Diddy's ex-girlfriends, intends to appear in court to testify against him. So allegedly, this ex-girlfriend may be Gina. I don't know that that has been confirmed at all, so it's alleged. And Gina did an interview on Tasha K years ago talking about her time with Diddy, and she said that he was very abusive, and she talked about different situations that she's dealt with related to him and what their life was like. So I don't know how it was kind of connected that she may be victim number 3, but that's kind of where she came out in the public and publicly associated her name with Diddy as being one of his girlfriends. And let's see here. And it says, our sources with direct knowledge say the woman has never cooperated with prosecutors and never gave them an indication she would be willing to take the stand during the trial. So it sounds like she never said she wanted to be a part of it. And I don't know how this works. I don't know if you have a choice and you can say no. When you get subpoenaed, I believe you are required, like you're obligated to go. But I'm not a lawyer. If you are a lawyer, let me know in the comments if that is correct. And then it says it begs the question, why did prosecutors add her to the Diddy indictment? And will they address her absence next week during opening statements? At this point, it's still unclear who prosecutors will call to testify at the beginning of the trial. Prosecutors have some big decisions to make with the victim 3, namely, will they refer to her in the opening statement? If they do, and then she ghosts them, the jury will wonder what's going on, and that might be a big blow to the prosecution. As we reported, Comey said Monday prosecutors would not be getting into the woman's story until the second part of the trial. And during opening statements, the woman would be described as one of the many women who allegedly have been abused and sexually exploited by Diddy. The indictment labels her alleged victim of trafficking. Cassie, another Diddy ex, has been long known to be victim number 1, and she's expected to testify under her own name, though it's not clear when she will take the stand. She's already in New York City, out and about with a huge baby bump, and some fans estimate she's around 9 months pregnant. So we'll see if she even makes it to be able to testify during this trial. I'm not sure how long it's supposed to last. I heard 8 weeks, but I don't know if that's there's any truth to that time frame or not. And we're going to continue on the reporting for this. 3 of the 4 alleged victims in the case are former Diddy girlfriends. And in court filings, prosecutors have said victim 2 is expected to deliver anonymous testimony about financial losses, dependency, and social isolation she experienced during their relationship, all of which made her more vulnerable to his coercion. So, very curious here what these, or not to hear, but to find out what these testimonies are. if I could be in that courtroom, I definitely would be there because this is a glimpse into a life that you think you've seen everything about Diddy because he was pretty flashy, he was pretty out there, and you kind of saw the parties, you saw pictures and stuff from it, but I don't think a lot of us knew any of this other kind of underground stuff was going on with him. So I'm just prepared to be shocked and my mind blown away from some of the stuff that you're going to hear because even the allegations in the lawsuit that Cassie filed had my jaw on the floor thinking I would have never imagined anything close to what she was saying in there was happening. I thought they were just living like a rich, lavish, we can buy whatever, we can do whatever lifestyle. I didn't know there was any negativity, toxicity, violence. I just had no clue any of that stuff was going on there. It just never gave that in anything I saw of them. So I can only imagine what's going to come out as a result of this trial in these testimonies that we're going to hear. And let's keep it going to see some other updates here related to the Diddy trial. Give me a second here and take a quick drink. All right. Okay, here we go. Diddy trial day 3. People with connections to case pop up. All right. This reporting from TMZ. Diddy's third day of jury selection featured a couple people with close ties to the case. This despite the judge's direction to both sides to better vet prospective jurors. Proceedings in Diddy's case are moving forward, with more potential jurors called Wednesday as both sides work to put together the 45-person jury pool, and it seems they weren't vetted with a fine-tooth comb. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. What's the most ideal juror for Diddy to have on the trial? I think this is a tough one because there's so many nuances to this that may impact the way anybody looks at it. But ultimately, I think women will not be a safe bet for him to be on the trial or to be on the jury. I don't think you can exclude them maybe 100%. I don't know that that could happen because I'm not sure, how much they have left and what that current makeup is of men and women yet. Maybe we'll see that later in the reporting here. But I think the more women he has on the jury, probably the more challenging it's going to be for him to prove his innocence, since most of the victims, I believe, are going to be women. But we'll find out because right now they're just identified by victim number, not name, except for Cassie. I've heard she's openly wants to testify under her name. And let's continue here. Juror 317 took the stand, which got Judge Arun Subramanian laughing immediately because he took the man used to work on anti-class action cases together. Oh, because he and the man used to work on anti-class action cases together. The potential juror, a lawyer, also admitted the case might make it difficult for him to represent his own client over the coming weeks. Both sides had reservations, and he was dismissed. Judge Subramanian wasn't laughing when another possible juror came up and said he actually works at MDC Brooklyn, the notorious jail Diddy's been calling home since the fall. While many in the courtroom laughed and the man was quickly dismissed, Judge Subramanian chastised the attorneys on both sides, telling them they needed to do a better job filtering candidates to make the process more efficient. So I know you wanted to get it done in 3 days, and I believe that is not going to happen. See if it touches on that here. As always, jury selection brought out a character or two as well, like juror 314, who said he's been binge watching the second season of Andor recently and labeled himself as lazy. Despite the prosecution's misgivings, the judge did not exclude him for cause. Juror 220 admitted to reposting a meme about Diddy, and when asked why he didn't disclose it, he responded that he was doom scrolling, the act of scrolling through content on social media without putting much thought into it. He had to explain the term to the judge. By the way, Diddy's clearly got a routine when he enters the courthouse wearing similar clothes to what he donned the first couple days of jury selection and hugging nearly every member of the team. The first round of jury selection is done, by the way, and the 45 members of the pool that have been chosen, though it should be whittled down to 12 jurors and 6 alternates Friday, be in session Thursday. Opening arguments will begin Monday, and the defense already knows the 3 witnesses the prosecution will call. So that's day 3 for the jury selection here. And let's see if we can, here we go. And then we're going to go to day 2. So we can get caught up on what was going on with day 2 jury selection. Diddy's defense team and federal prosecutors are adding 16 more potential jurors to the pool, and one of them has strong feelings about the Cassie beating video. After 2 days of jury selection, there are now a total of 35 people in the jury pool. Today's selection breaks down like this: 5 white men, 4 black men, 3 black women, 2 white women, 1 Latino man, and 1 woman whose ethnicity isn't clear. Perhaps the most interesting selection among the group was a man who told the judge he had seen the hotel surveillance video of Diddy attacking Cassie. He said Diddy looked, quote, angry, hostile, and entitled, end quote, during the brutal scene. That information was not enough for the judge to excuse him. Obviously, prosecutors would not and didn't take issue with the juror who had those feelings, but the defense did not object either. Of course, it's not a slam dunk that the guy ends up on the 12-person jury. Once they've picked enough people for the pool of potential jurors, prosecutors and defense will whittle it down to 18, including the 6 alternates. Prosecutors get 6 preemptory challenges, and the defense gets 10 challenges they can use to remove potential jurors without showing cause. Worth noting, the jury will not be sequestered for the trial. So that sounds like day 2 wrapped up right there. Not too much going on there. That was a shock or surprise. Let's see. And we got 2 more we're going to talk about here. So the judge in the Diddy trial has issued a warning to Mark Garagos. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Give me a quick moment to take a drink. And we're going to go into this warning that he issued and how it ties into the Diddy trial. The judge in Diddy's criminal trial is issuing a warning to Mark Garagos over his public comments about the case, and he vows he'll be watching and listening weekly to his podcast, Two Angry Men. And this is reporting from TMZ. Judge Arun Subramanian called Garagos into chambers Tuesday on day 2 of jury selection for a tidite about the famed attorneys referring to the federal prosecuting team as, quote, a 6-pack of white women, end quote. During last week's episode of the podcast he co-hosts with TMZ Harvey Levin, prosecutors alerted the judge to the comment, which they claimed violated court rules because Garagos appears to be consulting with Diddy's defense team. The rule bars prosecutors and attorneys involved in a trial from making public comments that could influence the jury. During the meeting, Garagos argued the Supreme Court has effectively said defendants and their lawyers have a constitutional right to publicly defend themselves, and therefore the judge shouldn't gag attorneys connected to the defense to Diddy's defense. By the way, the judge squarely asked Garagos if he's advising Diddy in this case. His daughter Tinny and Mark Agnifilio are leading the defense, and he would only say he talks to Diddy, quote, with great frequency, end quote. Anyway, the judge didn't disagree with Garagos' argument, but still reminded him that certain comments are so outrageous they wouldn't be tolerated. For instance, 6-pack of white women. The judge essentially said if Garagos pulls a stunt like that again, he could be cited. Get that off. He could be cited for contempt. Bottom line, Judge Subramanian warned MG that about crossing the line on, quote, Two Angry Men, saying, quote, I'm going to be watching and I'm going to be listening, all right? You have one more listener for your podcast, end quote. Thanks, Judge. It's available wherever you get your podcast. I like that little ending there and that plug from Harvey, I'm sure. And then we're going to get into the last story related to the Diddy trial here. Says Cassie is set to testify against Diddy in the federal trials, reporting from TMZ. And it better be sooner rather than later because it looks like she may need to rest, recuperate, and get ready for baby number 3 soon. So sounds like she may be out. I don't know if she lives in New York typically, but it sounds like she may be out there getting ready to be a part of this case. Photogog snapped Cassie out in New York City Wednesday, standing on a stoop in a gray sweater that just barely covers her massive baby bump. It's hard to tell exactly how far along the singer-songwriter is here, though she did announce she was with child back in February. It's clear she's deep in pregnancy mode now, and she'll be waddling up to the witness stand soon to testify. As you know, Cassie is one of the alleged victims set to testify against Diddy, and she's the only one who will not be using a pseudonym or otherwise remaining anonymous during the proceedings. Cassie's a star witness for the prosecution because she dated Diddy for more than a decade, and her lawsuit and cooperation with the federal government against Diddy seem to have contributed to his eventual arrest. Jury selection in Diddy's trial kicked off earlier this week, and there are now 45 prospective jurors in the jury pool. Court isn't in session today, but they are back tomorrow, and they plan on whittling down the pool from 45 to 12 jurors and 6 alternates. Opening arguments begin next week, and the prosecution may want to call Cassie soon because she's ready to pop. So we will see how this goes when Cassie goes up there to testify. I think next to Kim Porter, she's probably one of the more well-known girlfriends that Diddy had because she had been with him for so long and they were very public, photographed out a lot, doing a lot of different things at the time they were together. So she's very much associated with him in the sense that giving her credibility for experiences that she's had or maybe describing, and not to say that that makes them more accurate. I just think people are going to see the time they had together and it was known that they were together to go, okay, there's a real connection here. And people knew they were together. When that lawsuit was filed in November of 2023, I think it blew everybody's mind away because never had a lawsuit like that ever been filed against Diddy. And if it had, it was not publicly known because up until that point, that stuff is not stuff that I had heard in the manner like that ever described about him or attributed to him. And so that really made people go, wait, hold on. And for the people who didn't believe her when that CNN video came out, it kind of doesn't say that that may have happened every single time she said it, but it did validate, hey, wasn't over exaggerating. Maybe there was something that went on there. And he took responsibility in an apology video. So her testifying, given those circumstances and nuances, I don't know if that's really going to be the nail in the coffin for him or not, how much it's related to the charges that are being levied against him by the feds, but we shall see. This trial has got, I'm sure, the whole world's attention because, again, Diddy is known globally. His music has been around for over 30 years. So, not only were the people who were young at his time listening to it or have memories attached to it, their kids may have been exposed to it because your parents were listening to it. So, I mean, he's got generations that are familiar with him, and he tried to keep himself relevant by still being out there. So we'll see if any of that plays in his favor for people being willing to give him the benefit of the doubt, or if the evidence is just gonna overwhelmingly show another way. Let me know your thoughts on the Diddy trial in the comments. We always get some very interesting points made by the Aries crew, and I want to see your thoughts on here. And now we're going to get into the Cowboy Carter tour, which is going to conclude our live story for today's. In the beginning part of the day, we're probably going to do another live tonight as well because there's so many stories I need to catch up on. We got a new pope. Pope is first American pope in history, so of course we got to talk about that. Interesting timing for it to be an American pope right now, considering all the stuff going on with America and the tariffs and our relationship with the other parts of the world. But I'm here for it to have the first American pope in history, and I'm alive to see that. I don't follow that particular religion, but to be able to see that and say, hey, I was alive when that happened, I think is really cool. And we got to talk about Prince Harry. He's trying to get in back good with the Royals. I don't know if the money's run out. He's just had a change of heart over time and wants to be, back connected with his family. But we're going to get into that as well. So we got some more stories we got to cover. So we're probably going to do another live today as well. And if you have not already done so, hit a like on this video. It's a free way to support the channel. Goes a long way and it's greatly appreciated. We'd love to have you a part of the Aries crew. If you are not already here, come on over. We have a great time. All you got to do is hit that subscription button. It's free to join. And then hit that notification bell so you can find out every time I go live, upload videos, and post on the community page. And let's get into the Cowboy Carter tour. This is reporting from TMZ. Beyonce's Cowboy Carter tour is off to a rocky start, not only at the box office, but on stage too, because a couple of errors by crew members seem to have the pop star fuming. The singer-songwriter performed at SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles this week, and while marching down the stage during one of the shows, she looked to the ground to find her mark. The queen bee appears shocked and turns around, searching for the X to mark her spot, but she can't seem to find it and basically guesstimates where she needs to be. Beyonce pretty much nailed her spot. Good news, since heavy-looking picture frames on robotic arms come down to the front of her and behind her, and she would have taken one heck of a shot to the head if she had not made a slight adjustment last minute. It wasn't the only issue Bey had on stage during her first string of shows this week, because at one different moment, she was supposed to go up in the air atop a neon horseshoe, but an issue with her glove and had a crew member standing out way too long to fix it. It's unclear what this backstage bro is trying to fix here, but you can see in the queen's eyes, she looks like she wants to order his beheading. That's a wild way to describe that. He's got a couple more shows in LA before leaving for Chicago, where hopefully she's having better success selling tickets. Like we told you, sales are way down, with fans seeming unwilling to pony up the cash to see this cowboy. It's still early in the tour, so hopefully they can work out all these tech issues before B starts banishing workers from her queendom. So let me know if you are going to the Cowboy Carter tour, or if you have been to the Cowboy Carter tour, if you've heard the Cowboy Carter album, and if you like it, what song do you like on there? I would love to go to one of these Beyonce tours. I hear she puts on a fabulous show, but these tickets cost a lot. And right now, with everything that's going on in the economy, sorry, that's just a little bit more than I could put on concert tickets. But I definitely want to hear from my Aries crew if you guys have gone. Let me know what your experience has been like, or let me know if you plan to go to the Cowboy Carter tour. Let's keep this conversation going. Definitely want to hear your thoughts on the stories that we covered today. We will be back on live later on tonight. We're going to try to get some movie reviews in here too. I got like 4 movies we can talk about here, because 2025 has been great for movies as far as I'm concerned. I've seen so many good movies. I'm really happy with the start to this year. One of them being Sinners. If you have not checked it out, check out my review on Sinners. And then I'll post the Diddy playlist here so you can check out the other videos on that. And then we'll also get a Smokey Robinson playlist going so we can keep up on that particular lawsuit as well. And you can go back and rewatch those lives. I'll also link it here in the description box. Hope you're having a wonderful start to the weekend. Look forward to seeing you later. Thank you for watching. Take care.